Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the NetSuite podcast and welcome to our very special series, the NetSuite Now On Air Afterparty, during which we recap the virtual event series, looking back on last week's content and giving a sneak peek into what's coming this week. I'm your host, Kendall Fisher, and joining me is Editor-in-Chief of NetSuite, Fritz Nelson.
Hey Kendall, thanks for having me back. I guess I didn't do so badly last week that you're asking me back, or maybe I'm just the bad house guest that never leaves. I don't know.
To be honest, Fritz, I didn't really have a choice. You're my boss. So if I didn't invite you back, I feel like that wouldn't look good on my performance review at the end of the year.
Well, you made the right choice.
Well, on this episode, we're looking back at week 2 of NetSuite Now On Air, which was dedicated to the SuiteCloud Platform and Suite Analytics, a developer's dream, truly, as well as the best of the suite, tips from the experts. Should we get into it?
Yes, we should. And we've got some very special guests, including Evan Goldberg, who'll be providing some highlights from his fireside chat with Stephen Dubner.
Whoop.
Who, by the way, you also did a podcast with that's going to be coming up soon.
Yep.
And we'll also be joined by some NetSuite experts, Elham Ghassemzadeh and Marissa Kinsley, as well as Mark Needham, who is the NetSuite administrator for RealWear. So we have a lot to pack in. Why don't we get to it?
You're listening to the NetSuite podcast, where we discuss what's happening within NetSuite, why we're doing it, and where we're heading in the future. We'll dive into the details about the software and the people at NetSuite who are behind all the moving parts. We'll also feature customer growth stories, discussing the ups and downs of running a company and how one integrated system can help your business continue to scale.
Merchant E has supported NetSuite users for over 16 years with payment card and ACH processing services integrated right within NetSuite. Today, their next generation tools help NetSuite users digitize financial operations to adapt to new market challenges, such as enabling customers to self-pay NetSuite invoices online, keeping everyone safe by eliminating manual checks and improving DSO. Also, check out Merchant E's new tools for on-demand payment of earned wages and eliminating out-of-pocket payment of business expenses. Visit the Merchant E Gold Sponsor booth by navigating to the Sponsors tab on the NetSuite Now On Air website. First up, we're joined by the one and the only Evan Goldberg, NetSuite's founder and EVP. He hosted a fireside chat with Freakonomics podcaster and author Stephen Dubner last week. Let's hear some of those highlights. Hi, Evan. So you've got to tell us about your chat with Stephen Dubner last week. How was it? What an awesome opportunity.
It was great. I mean, he is a fountain of knowledge. And you know, what's amazing is that as he's sort of transitioned from writing books to doing podcasts, there's just so much information there on a weekly basis. He's done over 400 of them. So pretty much anything you mention, he's a wealth of knowledge about.
He said each episode is like writing a chapter in a book. So found that pretty interesting.
That's a lot of chapters.
Yeah.
One of the big areas you guys explored was around the podcast episode you did on the planning fallacy and why projects often go awry. And, you know, we want to encourage people to go watch it. So I'll give it away. The fact that it's part of it is about optimism bias. But one technique he talked about that I thought was interesting was this idea of a pre-mortem rather than a post-mortem. And I'm trying to figure out how to incorporate that into my planning. But what are your thoughts on that whole thing?
Well, you know, I mean, the optimism bias means that you tend to miss some of the risks and downsides. And, you know, just on that front, we both discussed the fact that some of the optimism bias is a good thing. I mean, you know, that's entrepreneurs. They're not doing things the same way as they've been done in the past. So he emphasized looking at how projects happened in the past and using that as a guide. But there's also room for taking risks and being, you know, optimistic about the potential for you to change the world and do things differently. Nevertheless, you want to do, it's kind of a balanced approach. You want to do this with realism, with pragmatism at the same time. and try to balance those two. So, on the pragmatism side, the idea of being as creative about all the negative things that can happen as you are about all the positive things that can happen, and sort of brainstorm what might go wrong. How would we look back on this and say, this is why it failed? That was a really interesting device, I think, to use in these situations so that you can really, truly have a balanced approach between, I guess you'd say, optimism and realism.
I love his logical approach to things because I'm kind of the opposite. I actually got the chance to interview him for the NetSuite podcast. And for those tuning in, you guys can listen to that in the coming weeks. It was awesome. But his logical approach it made me, for lack of a better word, think. I just loved it. And another area you guys actually spent some time on, he dove into this, was meetings and why they, how do I say this, kind of suck.
Yeah.
Again, though, like without giving too much away, what were your two big learnings from what he said?
Well, I'd already listened to the meetings podcast, which I think is a worthy one for people to listen to because it gives some really good kind of tips. Things like sending out agendas in advance so you don't spend the whole time, going over stuff that people, some of the people know and hopefully everybody knows. And, not necessarily being tied to exactly 1 hour. I mean, there's some funny anecdotes on the podcast about what people will do to fill the time. Because, we can't end early. And the fact that, a lot of the 1 hour bias comes from the fact that we're all using these scheduling programs in the past when there wasn't easy access for everybody to shared calendars, things maybe would be a little bit more ad hoc. And I think that's sort of what he's going for. So that's one of the things that I think he emphasized is, if it only needs 12 minutes, only use 12 minutes. And so, I think there's a lot of great techniques you can use because meetings you can call them a necessary evil. Some people like them. I mean, we're stuck with Zoom meetings right now, which can, really drag on you when you're doing 10 in a row. But I don't think, when we're back in the office, meetings we're suddenly going to have this epiphany that we don't need them at all. But hopefully we can do them a little bit better. And some of them, I know the other thing is obviously that we had discussion about remote work and the meetings issue is tied up in that. How many people are actually going to be in the office for in-person meetings and how are meetings going to be done? And what, there's probably going to be a different breakdown of which ones are done remotely and which ones are done in person.
Well, yeah. And you guys talked actually quite a bit about how working from home is kind of going to change the future of business too. And so for everyone who wants to tune into all of this and more, you can do so. You can watch it on demand by going to the NetSuite Now On Air website. Evan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now we'll bring on NetSuite Vice President of Product Management for the SuiteCloud Platform, Elham Ghassemzadeh, who will give us some insights from her product keynote last week.
Elham, what were some of the big themes and takeaways from your product keynote last week?
Hi, Kendall. Some of the major announcements and themes that we covered in my keynote were all the work that we are doing to improve productivity and agility for the SuiteCloud users, which includes administrators and developers. So we've kind of produced or worked pretty hard on providing a new set of tools for them. And we talked about those being Customization Manager, Performance Health Dashboard, and then some very interesting tool set to help improve the DevOps process for our SuiteCloud developers.
I'm wondering, Elham, how we get here. I mean, administrators are kind of some of the unsung heroes of their organizations, but how do we determine that these are the things that admins need?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, Fritz. I'm sure you all know that SuiteCloud customization options are some of the most heavily used features across all of NetSuite. And there literally isn't a single NetSuite customer who doesn't customize their account in some shape or form. Some might use custom records and fields and easier options, and some use more sophisticated capabilities such as SuiteFlow, SuiteScript, or even integrations. And over the years, we've come to recognize the importance of engaging in user research activities to get closer to our customers and using our key learnings to directly inform the new and valuable capabilities that we deliver to our customers on a continuous basis. So with that, we identified that in some cases, completing the tasks at hand requires using multiple tools and taking potentially unnecessary steps, which adds some complexity to administration of the suite. So in light of this, we are working to streamline the user experience, for example, by introducing new products like Customization Manager and the latest Performance Health Dashboard. So I introduced these new products at my keynote and talked about how they help improve the experience when it comes to creating and managing a NetSuite account. Of course, we'll continue our discovery process, working with a wide range of users who helped us get here, and we'll closely monitor the adoption of these products by measuring how they tangibly improve the efficiency of day-to-day tasks. And they will most certainly help us to continue evolve these key product areas over time.
Now, do we do the same for developers?
Oh, of course. So these same principles apply to our developer community as well. And we also engage with them to get their feedback. And the cloud development paradigm is clearly shifting and evolving at a very rapid pace. So we want to keep things interesting for our SuiteCloud developers by continuously advancing and refreshing our portfolio of tools too. So generally speaking, like increasing productivity and agility for SuiteCloud developers is a key pillar of our platform strategy. And when talking to some of our larger customers, we realize that they expect the same experience when using NetSuite as they do with other best-of-breed on-prem tools. Doing cloud development used to be really different, but it's getting closer to an on-prem experience. And we are trying to cater to that with the work that we are doing. We are expanding our offering in these areas in response to the needs of our developer community. And we are providing better automation and management capabilities throughout the DevOps lifecycle and enhancing and offering with the latest industry standards. We've introduced even new command line interfaces, also known as CLIs. And most recently, we integrated, offered a testing framework to help people create an automated DevOps pipeline.
We know how much those developers love their CLIs. Well, if you missed it this week, you can tune in now on demand. Thank you so much for joining us, Elham.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Integrating Flowcast with NetSuite, Zoom video communication was able to better communicate between its internationally distributed accounting teams, facilitate the introduction of internal controls to meet SOX requirements in a timely fashion, and ensure audit readiness. Along the way, the company was able to seamlessly transition its employees to remote work during these uncertain times without impacting processes the teams had worked so hard to revamp. Flowcast is proud to be an SDN partner, sharing over 400 clients with NetSuite. Visit the Flowcast Diamond Sponsor booth by navigating to the Sponsors tab on the NetSuite Now On Air website.
We're excited to welcome our next guest, Mark Needham, the NetSuite administrator for RealWear, who's going to give us some real-life insight into life as a developer and how his company uses Suite Analytics. Mark, can you start off by telling us just a bit about RealWear?
Sure. We're a company that makes a ruggedized, head-mounted, voice-controlled Android tablet. It's used in industrial applications for remote mentoring, visual inspection. Some companies use it for workflow instructions. So we're really trying to empower the remote worker to be connected in places that they don't normally get to take a tablet or a computer. And especially in environments that they aren't able to use their hands, they could utilize our tool to connect back to their home office remotely.
I'm looking at it on the website. It looks really cool. Do you ever just wear one just to creep your kids out?
I do. It is an Android tablet, so it does everything that Android could do. So don't tell my boss, but I have watched Netflix on it. And I do a lot of my phone calls on it. It has a really good noise canceling microphone, so it works out really well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, the theme of our event for this week, the NetSuite Now On Air event, was around admins and developers and power users, and you're the NetSuite administrator for RealWear. So I'm curious about how much customization you guys are doing. Maybe you have some good examples you can share.
It's funny. This is not my first company utilizing NetSuite, and I've gone from very heavily customized NetSuite environments, and I finally came to the point where I said, I really don't want to customize very much. That never lasts very long. And so, depending on the business case of what you need to do is how you need to customize. For example, here at RealWear, we sell a lot of our devices through channel sales, and so we need to be able to record sales or to our end users that aren't direct income to us, right? So we sell to a distributor who then sells to an end user. And so trying to come up with a way that we can capture who our end customer is when we don't have a direct invoice with them. And so utilizing, custom records and custom transactions in order to be able to do that. And then, trying to automate as much as possible so that our sales reps aren't entering opportunities and this new custom transaction and trying to get, the data to flow to the new custom transaction. That's probably been a really big challenge for us to make sure that we can capture who our end user is when we don't have a standard invoice for them.
And how do you go about figuring out how to solve problems like these, or even just finding out what's possible within NetSuite? Do you talk to other admins, like in the NetSuite user group or at a conference or something?
I've done a lot of that. So Portland has a NetSuite user group, pretty active with a couple different admins in the Portland metropolitan area here. So I utilize them. There's a couple different, the NetSuite user group online. I utilize the help. Whatever help I can get, even I've been to every single Suite World there ever was.
Wow.
And I've built relationships there as well. And, sitting down at the table with somebody and talking about your issue in NetSuite really does help come up with maybe some different perspectives on how to answer a problem that you may have.
Gotcha. Yeah. I'm just wondering, I always think that people in positions like yours are doing such great and kind of unrecognized work. Do the users, people in finance and operations and so forth, do they appreciate all the work you do behind the scenes to make their lives easier?
Well, I will say, to borrow a phrase from our CEO, the reward for good work is more work. And so I think that I do get some appreciation, but usually the appreciation is, that's really great, but can it actually do this too?
Oh, you know what, Mark? You and I have a lot in common there, but don't tell my boss who's actually on with us currently. I think that's a recurring theme for us over here. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for joining us, and we'll talk with you soon.
Okay.
And our final guest on this episode is Marissa Tinsley. She is the NetSuite Account Marketing Analyst, and she'll be summarizing what went down during last week's breakout sessions and what we can look forward to this week.
Marissa, can you break down what we missed during last week's breakout sessions?
Well, Kendall, last week really had a little something for everyone. Whether you're a NetSuite user looking to get more familiar with searches and reports, or a NetSuite administrator trying to take your NetSuite knowledge to the next level and get tips from other admins, or a developer ready to get in the weeds with SuiteCloud development and SuiteScript, week 2 had a session for you. But do not stress if you missed it. No FOMO or fear of missing on air here, because it's all available on demand. So definitely would encourage anyone who wasn't able to make it to register and view some of these awesome training sessions and product info on your own schedule.
Yeah, I missed the SuiteScript session, and I really need to brush up on my dev skills. So I'm going to go back and watch that one. What can we expect during the breakout sessions in week 3 this week?
Well, this week, our theme is Elevate Your CRM, Commerce, and Communications, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. We will focus on building customer engagement and growing revenue through personalized automated marketing, as well as on maintaining your customer relationships. We'll be hosting sessions like create engaging online brand experiences that drive sales and rescue your revenue with browse and cart recovery, which are such important concepts right now in today's online landscape, as well as trainings to help you leverage your NetSuite CRM for maximum productivity.
Lots to look forward to. Thank you so much, Marissa, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Lots of really great stuff last week with so much more to come, Fritz.
Yeah, well, as Marissa noted, next week's theme is all about the 3 C's: CRM, commerce, and communication. And as such, our CX, it's customer experience, product keynote features Allison Auclair. I wish it was Eclair, really. I like Eclairs, but I like Allison Auclair too. She's the VP of Product Management. She'll be talking about keeping your customers delighted while managing challenges and changes. She'll also cover NetSuite's strategy and all the exciting news and updates around Suite Commerce.
That's right. And on Wednesday's Business Forward event, we'll feature expert Mike Healy, president of Yeoman Technology Group, who will provide advice on how to optimize your digital sales strategies, explaining how your online sales and distribution fit within your overall organization and helping you end the year strong.
And if you have any lingering questions, you can always join the online lounge to get them answered. And as always, if you miss anything, you can get it on demand on the NetSuite Now On Air website. I'm wondering, Kendall, can people ask about your performance review in the online lounge?
Yeah, I'm sure. And honestly, if you wanted to share it with them, I know that I have nothing but raving reviews, 5 stars all the way down. I know that. So I'm confident you can share that.
Maybe they can join in and provide their comments, 360-degree view. Might as well involve our listeners in your performance review.
Hey, if you're tuning in, make sure you give me a good rating. Well, as always, thank you, Fritz. Thank you for guest hosting with me.
Hey, I'm glad to be here, as always.
I also want to thank our editors over at Lampstand, and most importantly, all of you for tuning in. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe for more content just like this. Bye.
You just listened to the NetSuite podcast. Be sure to tune in every week with more NetSuite developments, stories, and insights into the benefits of one integrated system to help you run your business.